Good afternoon. Today I will present our paper, Effects of Argumentative Explanation Types on the Perception of Review-Based Recommendations. My name is Diana Hernandez. The focus of my ongoing research is on how to provide better explanations in recommended systems, and in particular, argumentative explanations. The motivation for that is that despite the maturity already achieved by recommender systems, they're still perceived as black boxes. And on the other hand, the perception of transparency and effectiveness by users could be increased when explanations are provided. In particular, we aim to go beyond this famous example of Amazon's textual explanations. Thus, we work in an approach that seeks to provide more robust statements on diverse aspects in order to support the claim that an article can be recommended to a user. And we plan to do this by exploiting the rich content that can be found in user reviews. In this regard, the interest in exploiting online reviews has increased lately, and not only to improve the accuracy of the predictions, but also to provide better explanations. So, for example, Chang and colleagues proposed a matrix factorization model to generate explanations based on the alignment of explicit features and latent representations of items and user preferences obtained from reviews. We also have the work of Chang and colleagues, which is based on a deep learning approach to learn simultaneously the item features and users' preferences from reviews as well, in order to predict ratings. So this approach was extended by Chang and colleagues, who stressed that not all reviews should contribute the same, but only the helpful reviews should be used in order to improve predictions. So here, according to this approach, helpful reviews could also be provided as explanations. Furthermore, we have approaches that are based on the generation of natural languages sentences that summarize the content found in reviews, as proposed by Costa and colleagues. Regarding textual explanations, we can see here some examples of different approaches proposed so far. Previous work is highly based on the brief assessment of relevant features and the use of templates similar to those that we can see here, or abstracted summarization as example of the above mentioned work by Costa. But would users actually prefer such concise explanations to those that can provide a higher level of detail? And if that later is the case, how can we use this information found in the reviews to generate better explanations? So in order to answer those questions, we have designed and tested a series of explanation templates for the hotel domain, so that reflects an argumentative structure and includes some of the elements that are part of the told me model, one of the most widely used conceptual models for argumentation. However, a number of studies have criticized the applicability of this model for argumentation in real life. In this respect, Havernal and colleagues proposed a variation of this model that could represent better the kind of arguments that are usually provided in web discourse generated by users. And although this adaptation was mainly designed to support argument mining tasks, we believe that by leveraging this scheme, we could generate explanations by means of structured arguments that could still be easy to follow by users. So this is how we utilize the scheme proposed by Havernal to generate our templates. So here, a claim or the conclusion that the hotel is a good option is supported by a report of positive opinions. Here is the backing component. And we also provide a report of negative opinions as rebuttal, but offering also a refutation in order to provide possible reasons for such negative statements. So we aim to compare the effect of three different types of explanations that reflect such an argumentative structure. So we have the aggregation condition, where we provided statistical information, particularly on positive and negative opinions about certain aspects or features. And then we have the summary condition, that is a summary of opinions without showing any percentages. And then we have the review condition, where we provide a useful review of as an example of why the hotel is a good option. Additionally, we also wanted to test the effect that different levels of justification may have on users' perception. And here in the condition high level of justification, we have more sentences addressing both general and specific aspects, the later being fine-grained aspects, so for example, cleanliness of the bathroom or the cleanliness of the streets, whereas the low-level condition only provides information about main and general aspects like room or facilities in general, using much less sentences. So we aim to test the effect of these templates on users' perception regarding explanation quality, transparency, and other explanatory aims. So more formally, our research questions were: first, does the type of explanation influence users' perception? Second, does the level of justification influence this perception? And third, we wanted to analyze whether differences in user characteristics could also contribute to differences in perception. So in particular, we consider the style in which users make decisions, which could be either rational or intuitive. And we also analyzed to what extent the ability of users to listen to others and taking into account their opinions could influence our variables of interest. So these abilities actually refer to social awareness. To test the above, we recruited a total of 152 AMT workers for our user study. Participants were randomly assigned to one out of 6 conditions, which were the combination of the variables type of explanation and a level of justification. Participants were asked to respond to the questionnaire on their opinion about the quality of explanations, as well as their perception about the system prototype in terms of transparency, effectiveness, efficiency, and trust. A user characteristics questionnaire was also used to measure decision-making style and social awareness. Participants were presented with a prototype that provided a list of hotels corresponding to a hypothetical hotel search, and they were instructed to click on the View Details button so they could read the explanations for each hotel. This screenshot here depicts the condition aggregation with a high level of justification. So here are the results. First, we have that the type of explanation does influence significantly the perception of explanation quality. And in particular, explanations that provide percentages of positive and negative opinions are perceived as significantly better than summaries without percentages. Second, we found that the type of explanation influences significantly the perception of transparency. So here in particular, we found that the aggregation explanations conveyed more transparency than providing just a helpful review. Contrary to our expectations, we found no main effects of the level of justification. We believe that one reason could be that we only provided a static view of what the system infers that what are the most important aspects to users. However, users might be interested to dig into details beyond their usual preferences. So for example, even if cleanliness is not necessarily the most important aspect to user, she or he might be interested to read specific on why a hotel has some negative reports in this regard. Now, regarding user characteristics, we found no main effects of decision-making styles. However, we found that social awareness influences both transparency and trust. That is, users with a higher disposition to listen to others tend to perceive the system as more transparent and trustworthy when the proposed explanations are provided, independent of their type or justification level. We also observed a tendency to prefer explanations with opinion percentages for users with a higher social awareness scores compared to explanations that provide no percentages. That is, the more they listen to others and take into account their opinions, and the better they perceive the aggregated view that provides percentages of positive and negative aspects. Finally, it is important to acknowledge some of the limitations of our study, which we are currently working on for extended work in this matter. So first, we have used a prototype where users' actual preferences could not be requested or detected. And although we try to mitigate this matter by presenting participants with a cover story, in which we told the users to pretend that their most important aspects were the ones we indicated, the use of a real system may have an impact on the perception of explanations. Second, the use of AMT platform, where choices are hard to motivate, it's also a motivation in our case. And regarding our approach, as pointed out by some of the participants, explanations based on templates may be perceived as too repetitive, while implementations based on natural language generation may be perceived as more flexible. As a conclusion, our results suggest that the type of explanation influences the perception of review-based recommender systems, and particularly an aggregated view of positive and negative opinions using percentages seems to be a meaningful way to present explanations. So our results also indicate that social awareness seems to play a meaningful role in the overall perception of both explanations and the overall recommended systems. Thank you very much.